What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another War Thunder video. Today we're taking a look at the Enduring Confrontation mode. This is the second test. The first one they only did was for simulator pilots. This one now includes simulator pilots as well as realistic battles. And frankly, this is something I've been really looking forward to because regular realistic battles have become incredibly boring for me. That's actually one of the reasons I took all of June off from doing videos. I just needed to get away. Realistic battles have become just unbelievably boring and frustrating, in large part due to the bomber spam that seems to becoming a bigger and bigger problem. There are a few other issues that I have with realistic battles, but I'll get into that later. In the realistic battle that you're about to watch, I was in the 3.0 to 4.3 battle rating matches. There are 4 battle rating ranges that they've set up. They each have a separate game that you can log into. When I was playing, it was 1.0 to 2.7 in one battle. Another battle was 3.0 to 4.3, and another 4.7 to 6.3, and another. And lastly, it was 6.7 to 9.0. They have since changed those battle rating ranges. I'm almost certain that this is going to be a big part of the testing process. I would imagine this is going to be a huge part of the feedback aspect. Gaijin is likely going to be looking for any kind of comments that they can get from players as to what ranges they think should be included here, because obviously you don't want really good planes against really bad planes. You want a good mix of planes, but at the same time you don't want everything to be one-sided with the battle ratings. You don't want too big of a gap. Like in this instance, it was 3.0 to 4.3, and that's actually a really good match, or a really good range. They eventually changed it to 2.3 to 4.3, which to me, the difference between a 2.3 plane and a 4.3 plane is pretty significant. I actually think that they initially got it right with 3.0 to 4.3. But again, that's just my opinion. By all means, share your opinion below. I'd love to hear what you guys think of this. Now, as far as what you do, it's not all that dissimilar to what realistic battles is. This is like the best of arcade and realistic battles, in my opinion. At the start, you get into your first plane. Now, in my instance, all of my planes were above the 3.0 bottom BR limit. They were all like 4.0, 4.3, that kind of thing. So what they did is they gave me an extra crew and a 3.0 plane, 3.0 battle rating plane, and it's the I-135P Chaika Premium. Now I don't even own this plane, which made this selection even more bizarre. Now, if you're in a similar circumstance where you don't have a plane in the bottom BR, they'll do the same thing. They'll give you a plane of random choosing, I would imagine. I don't really understand why they gave me this plane to fly out as opposed to something else, but that's fine. I'm not complaining. It's an interesting little plane. I've never flown it because after all, I don't own it. Now, you may have noticed when I was selecting the Chaika that I didn't have an option of choosing the ammo. All I had was the stock ammo. And I have to imagine that that's because I don't actually own this particular aircraft. Also of note, because this was an additional crew that was added to my aircraft lineup, because I didn't have a 3.0 BR plane, the crew that is flying this is untrained. So all those vitality settings, the ability to spot planes at a distance, all that stuff is at 0. So it makes things very difficult to spot planes in this particular match. So with all that being said, I would recommend that you take at least one plane at that bottom BR. So if it's 3.0, take a 3.0 plane. As missions are completed, you get points added to your team and to yourself. You also get Lions and RP, just like a normal match, but points are definitely important because those will help you get into additional planes faster. When I initially spawned in, there was a timer on each plane, on each of the other planes that were in my lineup. Now, you'll notice there was a lot of other I-153Ps on this team. That's probably because a lot of people didn't have a 3.0 battle rating plane in their lineup. So they were given this plane as well to fly out. Now, I've flown Stalingrad a number of times in realistic battles, and I've never been a particularly big fan of it. It's enormous, it's unbelievably flat, but that's frankly true of every other realistic battle map. And as you can see, we got clouds. Clouds became the biggest frustration that I had with this match. They went very low and they went way up high. It took a hell of a climb in order to get out of these clouds. And if memory serves, I didn't find a single plane above the clouds. Everyone was in the clouds or below. Now, that's actually really frustrating because you don't know where to look. On a map this size, it could be anywhere. Skipping ahead in the action, here we go. I've initiated a dive. I was above the clouds, and then I noticed a couple of dots below the clouds, or actually in the clouds. So I decided to initiate a dive and see what the heck was going on down there. Whether they were bombers or fighters or what the heck they were. You notice my teammates are on the opposite side of the map. That's one of the frustrations of this map. It's absolutely enormous. I'm going to actually talk a little bit about that here in a couple of minutes. But first we get to see what these are. You see AAA fire and then, oh, SM-79s. Just a few German bombers here. Spot a couple. My teammates know that they're over here. Now what on the spot was 4. But as you'll see here in a minute, there's actually a lot more than that. A lot more. It's like the Canada geese flying south for winter. It's absolutely insane how many you're going to end up seeing here in just a minute. Now what I think happened is that these guys were given this plane as a bonus plane because they didn't have 3.0 better planes. I'm just guessing here at this point. I haven't taken the opportunity to research these SM-79s as far as to see what battle rating they are, but I think they're right around 3.0. So I suspect that these guys got the SM-79s instead of, say, a fighter. Much like I got the I-153P. And you can see there's everywhere. There's filling the skies. SM-79s do have a little front gun, so you have to watch out for that. And they do kind of go, man, look at this guy. He wants to shoot me down. He wants a Chika on a platter. It's really interesting flying this plane for the first time. Here we go, and you'll notice not only did I get the Lions and RP, but I also got a timer reduction. That's important. That allows me to get those other planes that are in my lineup out faster. So theoretically, if enough time has gone past, I can just land, rearm, repair, and hop into one of those other planes and take off. Or of course, if I get shot down, I can do much the same. Again, as long as there's been enough time that's gone past. And the only way to know that is, of course, is to actually die or land and have the opportunity to take off with another plane. Another SM-79 down. Did take a little shot. A lot of guys down low. They're trying to attack that base. You'll notice earlier in the match that there was a list of objectives. Well, one of the objectives is to bomb the enemy bases. I don't want to go head on with this guy. Even though he's only got a small front gun, it's still a gun, and this plane is not very durable. It's just a little bitty biplane, a little Chika. I can't take too many hits. Just the right hit, and I could actually lose a wing, so I want to eliminate this guy as quickly as I can, and there we go. Take him out. SM-79 up high. Starting to get a little low on ammo. There's still a lot of bombers over here in the area. A couple more over here. In addition to bombing out the bases, the other objectives that you'll encounter are obviously shoot down other enemy planes, whether it's fighters and attackers, bombers, whatever. But you also have one of the objectives is to shoot down spotter planes, defend your spotter plane, spot the enemy base because they are not initially shown on the map. Oh, look at that. Like I said, this plane is not particularly durable. One little shot from an armored piercing round, It'll take that wing right off. Oh, that's the first death. Still managed to get a couple of kills. Now I can take the either 135P again, or I can take something else. The only two options that are available to me are the P47 and the LA5F. If you pay very close attention, you'll notice all the other planes are still locked by time. There's still a time limit before I can take those. You do have an option as to which airfield you want to take, just like earlier. If you've gotten a lot of the enemy planes shot down, you can take that forward base. That way you're right back into the action really quickly. But of course, taking that base puts you at a disadvantage in terms of altitude. If you take off from that front base and you have someone right above you, you're in a world of hurt. Because there's not much room to climb. Whereas if you take off from, let's say, the middle base or the back base, you'll have more time to climb before you get into that first fight. Now, in this particular map, it wasn't a big deal taking that front base, as I would later find out. And the reason, again, has to do with the clouds. The cloud cover was quite low on this map, so you didn't have to climb. Doing any kind of climbing actually put you right into that cloud, and it just went forever, it seemed. Here we jump ahead a little bit in the action, because I don't want to show the entire battle. The battle lasted over an hour. So these battles are not for the faint of heart. These are not 10-minute battles like you might find elsewhere. Sometimes realistic battles will take 20 minutes, maybe longer, but the enduring confrontation matches will often take an hour or longer. Here we got some Focke-Wulfs down low, joined by a P60 or a P39 rather, and we're gonna try to whittle those down a little bit, or at least try anyway. I really enjoyed this match in part because I'm still trying to get back into realistic battles. For those of you who have been around my channel for a while, know that I took all of June off, and during that time I only flew one realistic battle. I left as soon as I saw there was all bombers. So as far as actual flight time, I only spent time in arcade. So I'm still getting used to the lack of a lead indicator and all that fun stuff. So my shots are just a little off. Got a nice little hit there, nothing critical, unfortunately. Immediately put it back into a climb as I want to stay above these guys. P39 engages. Drops on him beautifully. Smokes him a little bit. And I decided to return and give him a little hand, finishing him off. As I watch this, I'm just thinking to myself, I should have turned around a little bit sooner. Wait a little too long. These guys are actually prop hanging, trying to kill the P39. I dive on this Focke-Wulf with the intention of picking this guy up and then going up and getting at least one of the other guys. Unfortunately, I couldn't get there. These guys stalled out and dropped in altitude. Now, that Focke-Wulf that I killed, I didn't notice that his engine was dead until the very last second. And had I noticed the engine was dead, I would have let him go. It's one of those things that you don't notice it until the last second sometimes. The P39 was the one that deserved credit for that kill, not me. It was a steal kill on my behalf. Tried getting the Focke-Wulf, but my aim it's just not quite on yet. It's a work in progress. Come on, let's get this other guy. Try to help our friend here. We're stalling out. Got hit. We're stalling out. Guy below us. He's just so close to us, though. I don't want to get too close. I'm at that point where I don't think he can actually pick his nose up and get me. So I'm actually feeling pretty confident at this point. Eventually he gives up and decides to go after the other guy. So I decide to chase after him. Get a lot of speed. I have to admit that Focke-Wulf was pretty fast, even though he's only coming in a shallow dive there. Another SM-79. They're just everywhere on this map. The ones that we didn't shoot down initially have by now, or at this point, have returned to base. Got a fresh load of bombs and are making their way for that those little bases of ours to destroy them. Now we skip ahead about 15 minutes into the fight. It's been kind of a lull in action. We've had a couple of attacks on some fighters, some bombers. Nothing that I was actually too involved in. I was at a little bit of a distance of a couple of kilometers away. In a typical realistic battle match, I would probably show it, but in one of these enduring confrontation matches, which last over an hour sometimes, it's just a little too much to try to voice over. I hit the first SM-79 and take out the second. There's a BF-109 that's in the clouds. He and I have been kind of doing a little cat and mouse in and out of the clouds. So far, he's been able to avoid me. So far he's done a hell of a job with his energy management. I have to admit, he's been able to just keep his energy just above what I could stall out at. That's giving me a little bit of trouble. But I just came back from a reload just before I engaged those two bombers, so I'm doing pretty good on ammo. But I want to find that BF-109. But as you can see, he's hiding in the clouds. He's been doing this the last 10 minutes, I swear. He kind of pokes his nose down below the clouds to see where I am. Here we go. Here's awfully close. If I had known where he was, I could have probably shot him. But the cloud cover is just so damn thick you can't see through it. Not until he gets right in your face. Try turning with that BF-109 and we almost collide. If he had fired his gun, I'm pretty sure he would kill me. Because that was so fucking close. Come on, 109. Don't disappear on me again. We've been doing this dance for the last 10 minutes. It's frustrating losing him in the clouds like that. And it's not like he disappeared, at a great distance. It was only a kilometer away. After several more minutes of flying in and around the clouds, he and I finally go head on. I try to avoid him, but I actually miscalculate my distance from him, and I get blown up. That was a good job by the 109. He nailed me really good there. Took the left wing clean off, and the fire pretty much did the rest. So good on him. Now, a lot of time has gone by, and I've actually got a lot of options now. I can take out any of these planes except for the Yak-9T. In order to take out the Yak-9T, another minute has to go by. Instead of waiting, I'm just going to take out the LA-5FN, which is a really good plane. Opt for the tracers, take the front line base, and off we go. And off we go. And off we go. Come on, Worth, you can do it. Come on. Put me in the game, coach. Alright, here we go. So at this point, things are getting pretty slim. Both teams are down to half a dozen players or thereabouts. Now we've had a guy on our team that's in the P51, not the P51. It's the P47, the premium P47, and he's just been attacking ground targets. He's bombing one of these bases. He's going back, rearming, getting more bombs, and he's just going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I have to give this guy credit for having the patience to do this, because I don't know that I could have. He'll attack AAA occasionally, but most of the time he's just going back and forth, getting bombs, dropping them on the base. And the bases take a lot of bombs. They've increased, as I understand it, the amount of bombs that it takes to take out one of these bases. So a P47, even though it can carry bombs, it can't carry a lot of large bombs. So it takes a lot of trips to kill that damn thing. And so this brings up the important point, which is what planes do you actually put in your lineup? Well, I play a lot of arcade, especially in the past month. In June I played exclusively arcade. And the best lineup that I find in arcade is a mixture of stuff. Not just bombers, not just the fighters, but a mixture of everything. And so in this enduring confrontation event, I would think that you're going to want to do something similar. I have seen some guys do extremely well with just fighters, but if you have a varied lineup, you know, you have bombers, attackers, and fighters, then that'll give you a better chance of completing more of the objectives. It gives you more options rather than just going after other fighters. Ground attacking can be a lot of fun, as I've shown in some of my past videos. What I found is as these matches go on and players get eliminated and it gets down to just the past couple or the last couple of guys, you end up having a problem with spawn camping. Playing Enduring Confrontation actually reminded me of realistic battle ground forces, because every time someone would die, you would go back and respawn at their spawn point, and everyone would kind of rush to that spawn point and kill them as soon as they spawned in. Well, in Enduring Confrontation, the same sort of thing happens, and so you tend to get a lot of complaints about spawn camping. Now, if you're someone who is trying to spawn late in a battle like this, keep in mind that you do have 3 airfields to choose from. So odds are you're going to have a good chance of taking off, unless of course someone is spawn camping all 3 airfields. Then you have an issue. But there is a bit of a distance between each airfield, so you should have enough time to get off the ground and avoid being killed right away. One of the changes that Gaijin made in between the first test and the second test is they made the AAA stronger, so that those of you who were taking off late in a battle had a better chance of survival, because the AAA would likely shoot down any kind of enemies who were trying to spawn camp, I guess you could say it. And I'm actually going to run into that problem not too far from now. Almost all MMOs have some sort of spawn camping issue. War Thunder is certainly not alone, and I don't know how you could possibly get rid of spawn camping, to be honest with you. I've heard of people suggesting that they just buff the hell out of the AAA even more. One of the other ideas that's been floating around is making a no-fly zone around the runway. So do like a 2 square kilometer or a 4 square kilometer box around each runway and make it a no-fly zone. And what that does, at least in theory, is make it so that if you fly into that perimeter around the runway, that you get the return to battlefield warning, just like you would at the edge of a map, and you would get teleported back into play. Now, I don't know how effective that would be, and I'm not sure how much extra work that would be for Gaijin to try to implement. And the more I think about that idea, the less I like it, because you could just have someone just sit on the runway and just make a match go on forever, because you couldn't kill the guy. All you could do is fly near him. All you could do is fly into that zone, and you'd be immediately teleported outside, thereby making him unkillable, essentially. So he could drag the match out until the time limit expires, whether it's 2 hours or 3 hours or whatever the time limit is on these things. And to me, that doesn't make any sense. So if I had to choose between the idea of buffing the AAA even further or doing the no-fly zone, I think I would opt for the AAA. Because honestly, the AAA isn't that bad now, and I can't imagine it being, you know, remarkably deadly even after a little bit of a buff. Of course, I say that now, but not too far from now, I'm gonna actually get shot down in my LA5FN. But honestly, how many times do you get shot down by AAA in realistic battles? Either this or in regular realistic battles. I don't get shot down nearly as much as I used to. I suspect that AAA in regular RB has been nerfed just a little bit, because there was a time where it was just ridiculous, honestly, for a long time, actually. I think this guy thinks he can stall me out. If my aim had been good. Damn it. That's what happens when you take a month off of realistic battles. Where are you going to? Oh, that was so damn close. Flew right in front of him. That was dangerous. we're both stalling ourselves out here. Honestly, I'm just enjoying watching this. I don't even remember what happens in this confrontation. I played too many matches after this. Oh, there we go. Takes the wing off, and there we go. Takes care of him, and there's the part of his wing. With that guy eliminated, I decided to fast forward through the match just a little bit and find that spot where I get shot down by the AAA. I've been trying to chase this 109. He keeps losing me in the clouds. It's one of the problems with this thick bank of clouds. It's just ridiculous. It goes really low and goes really high, so trying to find anyone in this map was both challenging and frustrating. You just don't know where to go. You just don't know where to look. One guy actually chased down our spotter plane a couple of times, so I kind of knew where he was, basically on the map, but I didn't know what altitude he was. Because even though you can see the dot through the clouds, you don't know what altitude it actually is. So as the 109 appears, go into a dive, try to eliminate him. Get flak, firing, and there I go. Fireball. Looks like a comet or a meteor. So chuck that up as my third death of the match. I got shot down twice by the enemy aircraft and once by AAA. Now, I kind of like the LA5 FN, so I decided to stick with it and use that to finish off the game. Now, earlier I mentioned the battle rating spreads as being a concern. I want to get a little bit more into that, just a little bit. If you have too big of a gap in the battle ratings for each game, you're going to have the potential for some really lopsided matches, and someone's going to get the short end of the stick. A lot of people, including myself, have issues sometimes with when they get up tiered, when they're in, say, a 6.0 plane and they're facing a 7.0 plane in regular realistic battle matches, and there's a chunk of that guy's plane. And so you have an even bigger issue here with Enduring Confrontation when there's a 2 or almost a 3.0 BR spread in each match. And so I was looking at the battle rating spreads that Gaijin has listed in their article about what's allowed in each match here. And I was looking at the jet spread in particular. When I was flying this particular map, the spread for the last group of planes was 6.7 to 9.0, which in itself sounds pretty ridiculous. But then after this match was over, they changed the BR spread for what planes were allowed in each match. They changed it to 6.0 to 9.3 for the last tier. Is it just me, or does that sound absolutely ridiculous? I am not a jet player by any means. Most of you who are on my channel for any length of time know that I don't fly jets very often. But 6.0 to 9.3, that's late props to very early jets against MiG-15 BIS, Canadair Sabre, F2 Sabre. I mean, this is insane. And so we're obviously right now. Of course, I mentioned the F2 Sabre. That's obviously not part of the Enduring Confrontation right now, because it's only Germany and Russia for the time being. But eventually, it's going to include the other nations, I would imagine. But even if you just think about Russia versus Germany, if you're a 6.0 plane, that's like Yak 17. And if you're flying against Germany, you could have like a German MiG-15 BIS or a Canadair Sabre. That just is not fair to me. That's a one-sided fight, if you ask me. Now, of course, crazy shit has happened and will happen, and I could definitely see someone making a mistake in those higher tier planes and getting shot down. But if the player skill is equal, and it just comes down to aircraft, I seriously don't think that the Yak-17, at least in this example, would likely win too many of those fights. That Saber or MiG-15 pilot really had to screw up. and this whole BR thing, it gets into another issue that I have. Well, it's a concern rather, and that is how many people are going to play this mode. You know, during confrontation, matches can last anywhere from 30 minutes to over 2 hours. The average person isn't going to sit down and play this, obviously. The average person doesn't even play realistic battles. The average person plays arcade. And so, I wonder how many people are going to play Enduring Confrontation when it goes live for all nations, and how many people are going to play regular realistic air battles. And really, where I'm going with all this is how many players do we actually have playing War Thunder right now? If I log in, regardless of what time of the day it is, I can estimate how many people are going to be online, according to the online, according to the stats that they show in the hangar at the top of the screen. You know, in my time zone, if I log on at like noon, I can average about 63,000 players are online at that time. If I log on at say 9:30 or 10 o'clock p.m., there's like maybe 22,000 online. And so I'm wondering how Enduring Confrontation is going to affect other battles, or the other battle modes rather. Because when Tanks was introduced, arcade air, realistic air, and simulator air lost a lot of players because everyone wants to play the new tanks and all that, and that's understandable. Right now we have arcade air, we have realistic air, simulator air. Well, simulator air obviously isn't what it used to be because they basically stripped that down to almost nothing. Same with simulator ground, and now we're thinking about adding realistic and simulator air for Enduring Confrontation, and that's going to be split up into four tiers each. You know, in the first tier you're going to have 1.0 to 2.7, and then so on and so forth, and all that BR spread bullshit. But how spread thin are we going to be with respect to player numbers? Are we going to have very many players for Enduring Confrontation? How is that going to affect regular realistic air? I'm already having problems getting even 3/4 of a match full right now in regular realistic air. And I would say about 10% of the time I get mixed RB, mixed teams where you get players from all 5 nations thrown into one match. And so if we're struggling to get full matches with proper teams now, what are things going to be like when we have Enduring Confrontation? When I would imagine this mode will pull in even more players and pull them away from regular realistic battles and away from regular arcade battles. How is this going to affect the game? Because, like it or not, we're not gaining huge numbers as far as regular players on War Thunder. Like I mentioned, I can guess how many players are going to be online at a particular time, because it's kind of been that way for several months. We're not gaining players. We're not necessarily losing players, at least not in significant numbers. We're kind of stagnant as far as concurrent online players. And I think this is one of those concerns that no one really likes to talk about. War Thunder critics like to just say that they were losing numbers because of they're getting frustrated with the game or whatever. But the number of concurrent players really isn't dropping by any kind of significant figure. People obviously take breaks, but that's understandable. This is a game that takes a lot of time and a lot of patience in order to grind all the planes and tanks, and then of course get all the upgrades in it. And it's understandable to get frustrated and bored with either that or just the way things are going with the economy that the game uses and all that kind of stuff. There's any number of things that could frustrate a player, and I can understand all that. But honestly, the biggest concern that I have is with how this mode is going to affect all the rest of the modes, and how many players are we going to have, say, 2 months from now. Will we even be able to fill a match? Will mixed realistic battles become the norm? Is it going to be, you know, basically arcade plus? You know, I don't know. These are obviously concerns that we have to address. Quite frankly, we can't shy away from them, and frankly, Gaijin has to step up their game and start marketing to a North American audience, something they've for some reason neglected to do. I see World of Tanks advertised all the time here on ESPN and here in the United States. I can see 2 or 3 advertisements in a single day sometimes if I'm watching ESPN a lot in that particular day. I can see a lot of that, and you never see War Thunder advertised on any channel. I don't think Gaijin is even trying to do that. I think they're still. I don't know if they're waiting until this is out of beta testing or just what they're waiting on. But my hope is that they'll eventually figure it out and they'll start advertising it and get working under some proper recognition here in the U.S. as far as marketing goes. I've actually toyed around with the idea of actually trying to create my own, you know, commercial, just not to obviously advertise for it, but just as an example of what a War Thunder commercial could be like. That'd be something interesting to try out, something I've never done. I've seen a couple of videos online that were made by people who were obviously doing a sort of a sarcastic example of a War Thunder video or a War Thunder commercial, you know, showing off the bugs and all the bad stuff that goes on with the game. That's actually kind of funny to see what some people actually come up with. Now, I don't want to leave this video on the negative note, because I know I've been talking about the negative aspects of the game as far as what my concerns are and the problems that I have. But actually, during Confrontation, it's actually a lot of fun. When I first started this, and I was flying the I-153P, the little premium Cheka, there was just the sense of epicness that just came to me. Like, this is not a regular match. This is going to be something different, something special. And I haven't had that feeling in a long time. Not since I think it was my first foray into like a simulator tanks or something completely different. And that was a lot of fun. It was really cool to have that experience again. Something I haven't had in quite a while. And so I'm definitely going to be someone who tries this as the tests continue, and hopefully they'll make the proper adjustments as far as BR spreads, and we could get a really cool mode. This has the potential to be something really special. To me, the Enduring Confrontation brings the best parts of arcade and the best parts of realistic, and it just makes for the potential to be a really good match or a really good mode. It's been quite a while since I had this kind of excitement about something new in the game. You know, a new plane, it just doesn't cut it anymore. You know, a new tank, as cool as those things are, it's just not the same as a whole new mode like this. And so I'm really excited to see something new come out. As far as kills go, I didn't have anything special of a game. I had 8 kills, 4 of which came with the Cheka on those SM-79 bombers at the very beginning. And it's funny because the Cheka I don't even own, as I mentioned earlier. Now, if you look at my service record, I have 4 kills and a plane that I don't even own. Anyway, guys, I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you tried out Enduring Confrontation, let me know what you thought of the mode. Thanks again for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, click that thumbs up. Of course, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Take care, guys.